Well, drink them if you got them, because it's a dark day in America. This is the Nikki Maduro Show. I am Nikki Maduro. She is Kim McAllister. And who knew that Charlie Kirk and Jimmy Kimmel will be the faces of the downfall of America? And I do not say those words lightly. I just cannot believe what has transpired in the last week, because we were here last Wednesday because we recorded early. And thank you for everyone that was here last Wednesday when Charlie Kirk was murdered. And within that week, we have lost. Basically, we've lost our First Amendment. I am even wondering how far this is going to go. Obviously, the news yesterday to today, Jimmy Kimmel has been pulled indefinitely from the air on ABC for basically what they're saying is lying about Charlie Kirk. He did not say what people are saying he said at all. They're absolutely lying. They are saying that he said that Kirk was MAGA. That is not what he said.
Some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between.
Now, that's all he said. And that is exactly what they did. We did not even have a suspect. And people on the right were saying the other side, them. If anybody was blaming and slandering anybody, it was the GOP political leaders. Remember, Nancy Mace was blaming people. He did not say that he was MAGA. He was saying that MAGA was doing everything in their power to not say that he was MAGA. And then this is what I think is really what got them.
Finger pointing. There was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
This is
My
what it was.
condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
So Stephen A. Smith, who was asking for where the joke was, there was the joke. Mm-hmm. And Stephen A. Smith, you can kiss my ass. Anybody that is defending Jimmy Kimmel being pulled off the air for that is insane. He didn't break an FCC rule. He didn't show his nipple. He didn't cuss on air. I'm serious. He didn't slander anybody. And he did not say that Tyler Robinson was MAGA. He never said that. And by the way, it's not against the law to say that, even if he did. So I'm just so angry that honestly, the party of free speech, right? Trumping an executive order to protect free speech is doing this. But it is insane. Kim, you were just telling me before we started the show, what could be next?
Well, before we get to what's next, I want to throw this out there because you just said he didn't do anything wrong. What he said wasn't very bad. He didn't show a nipple. He made it a joke about the Trump's reaction. He didn't make a joke about the killing. He didn't make a joke about political violence. He made a joke about Trump's very odd reaction when asked about the murder. He pivoted to say, look at the ballroom, right?
Right.
Here's what Jimmy Kimmel posted on Instagram the day that Charlie Kirk was killed. Instead of the angry finger pointing, can we just for one day agree that it is horrible and monstrous to shoot another human? On behalf of my family, we send love to the Kirks and to all the children, parents, and innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence.
There we
One
go.
thing we know about Jimmy Kimmel, when there is a national tragedy or catastrophe, Jimmy Kimmel has this ability to both lighten the mood with his humor and also to come at it with an incredible sense of empathy. He did it when the fires were raging in Los Angeles. He did it when his son was going through horrible medical situations at birth, right? A heart issue that had to be dealt with. And he talked about how most people won't have the resources if they're in the same situation, and talked about the need to reform medicine. Whenever there's something really serious, like a national tragedy that happens, he handles it very, very well. He never made fun of the killing. He isn't like the people that got on TikTok and did celebratory dances. That's a whole different situation. He just made fun of Trump. And because he made fun of Trump and has over and over and over again, he became a target, somebody they wanted to silence. And they were able to do it because now ABC needs help from the FCC.
Yep.
And so Jimmy Kimmel becomes a casualty of this trading around of media companies.
It's ridiculous. Nexstar, which owns the ABC stations in many places across the U.S., they were hearing it from people after Jimmy Kimmel's. Now, listen, I understand that there is a difference, and we have to make this clear. And I don't think that people fully get this. When they're talking about people on Fox News, which is cable, versus ABC, which is not, right? The FCC doesn't regulate, Fox News. ABC has to pay for that license, and that's why they have to follow the rules. And that's why, Gutman can say bullshit and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Well, that's why we could do that. So there's a difference. And I understand if you're getting a ton of phone calls from people, and they're upset, that you might not want that. And that's why you might pull somebody off the air. And I understand that people are making comparisons with Roseanne Barr and all those sorts of things. There is a difference. I want to play this video real quickly. This video, David Frum, he was a former Bush aide. He had this reaction when people are talking about it's just cancel culture.
There's only one thing that matters. There's only one thing that matters. We had a threat of retaliation by a government official for someone not pronouncing government commanded speech. There was an order from the state about what people must say. Jimmy Kimmel did not say that, and his corporation was threatened with consequences by a government official. This is not cancel culture because it's not culture. It's state repression. It's an order from the government. Here's the script you must read. If you do not read it, you will be taken off the air. Jimmy Kimmel didn't read it. He was taken off the air. This cannot be, because he's a comedian, there'll be people who say maybe we shouldn't take this as seriously, but here's the comparison I would suggest. When Paul Pelosi was brutally attacked, many, unfortunately, including the son of the former President Trump, made light of it. A terrible thing, heartbreaking, a terrible attack on an 82-year-old man. Imagine if the Biden administration had given a script and said, this is what everybody must say about Paul Pelosi. And if you don't say it, we will bring pressure to bear on your parent corporation to fire you. Greg Gutfeld at Fox, you're not sad enough about Paul Pelosi. You're not saying what we command to be said about Paul Pelosi. Therefore, unless Fox fires you, we are going to bring regulatory havoc to bear on the parent corporation.
Now, again, there would be parent corporations because he can't do the cable. But do you see the threats were made? And there is this merger that they're trying to get through. Nexstar is trying to get the cap, which is frightening him. They're trying to raise the cap on how many stations they can own in the United States, which, by the way, Trump and the FCC are very, they already like that. They don't like the cap. They want to own every station in the United States. But they also are like, well, then do what we want. So they're already looking for a way. Can you imagine if Donald Trump and the right own every single local radio station, TV station across America? Imagine that.
We better hang on till the bitter end over here. We're going to be the only voices left. I want to read you this quote, if I could. And I found it in the Huffington Post, but it's a quote from Jon Stewart.
Okay.
He said, "Comedy doesn't change the world, but it's a bellwether." He said, and he said this in 2022 on The Daily Show. He said, "When a society feels under threat, comedians are who get sent away first."
Isn't that funny?
And we saw it. The article goes on to say, listen, it happened with Putin when he forced the cancellation of a comedy puppet show that mocked him during his re-election campaign. In Egypt, the government and the military persecuted a comedian who criticized the government and made comments that were viewed as critical of Islam, drove this guy off the air. We saw it with Colbert, right? So now this is happening. And it was my lever. You know, we talked a while back about like, when is the moment that you have to get out? And my husband was like, okay, well, you know, what's the moment that we leave the country? Like, what's the moment that we don't have to wait too long before it's too late to get out? What's the moment you go? And I said, when they disappeared Jimmy Kimmel, that's when I'll go.
Is that what you really said?
What I said. And here we are, Nikki. Here we are. He's not disappeared in the middle of the night, but effectively he's been silenced. And this is a hugely important voice. I'm super disgusted with how naive I've been, thinking that America was strong and robust and our Constitution would save us and we were different from every other country in the world. And all it takes is one big bad woof to come and blow. And look what happens. We fall like the most shabbily constructed of houses. I'm so disappointed in us as a country. I'm so disappointed that anyone would tolerate this freedom of speech. And it's interesting because I hate to say them and us and the right and the left and blah, 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 but you know, that's what it's turned into. So I'll say on the right, they've been crying about freedom of speech for a while, right? Oh, we're not allowed to, every time they say we're not allowed to have freedom of speech, they're saying we're not allowed to lie and just believe in what we want and ignore the facts. Okay, whatever. But if you're so upset about freedom of speech, about Mr. Kirk being silenced because someone didn't agree with his ability to speak his mind, then how can you think it's okay to silence anyone on the other side? And I'm reminded of this all the time because John Rothman always brings it up every Wednesday on the Mark Thompson Show. He says, well, many Wednesdays, he'll talk about freedom of speech and how there was a Ku Klux Klan march. And people in a town were saying, we don't want these people here. And it was the Jewish people in the community that stood up and said, we don't like what they're saying, but they have absolutely every right to say it. This is the United States of America. If Jewish people can stand up for the KKK, who want nothing more than to see them all horribly injured or dead or whatever it is, how can we as Americans just sit here and say, this is okay? This is a horribly dark day. I don't know if us speaking our mind on YouTube, are we scared right now? I don't want to be scared. I want to say this is America, and I deny that you have the right to take this right away from me.
Right.
But my husband's like, oh, maybe it's time to go. You could broadcast from any other country, and everything you're saying, we wouldn't have to worry. You could still speak your truth. Maybe it's time to go. Because what you asked me earlier, what will happen? Here's what he thinks will happen.
Okay.
This is the first domino, one of the first dominoes, right? They're taking the National Guard into our country. They're taking away free speech rights. They silence people. So it ceases to become America. And then perhaps you'll have people fleeing. And when people flee, we won't be able to sell our house because home prices will tank and it will be worthless. And then we will have to stay here in this house and we won't be able to get out. So Is that what you want? You want to stay until it's too late, and then you won't be able to go anywhere? Like, this is the thought process. And we can't be the only one having it. Having the discussion.
So when do you want to, so are you like seriously thinking about leaving?
He is, but then I'm like, well, Julia has one more year of high school. And he's like, no, we got to go. No, my husband's job is to catastrophize things. He's paid to go, okay, this is a great idea. What could go wrong with it? Let's poke all the holes in it that we can, and make sure that it works before we do it. So that's what he does. So I have to understand that he's coming from that mindset, but also add that to all the heavy stuff happening and what we see day by day. And he's not wrong. And I can definitely see his point. Yeah. Do I want to leave California? I'm a California girl through and through. Yeah. Do I want to not fight for the country that I love and for the Constitution that I believe in? No, I absolutely want to. But here's where we are, Nikki. Yeah. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going? Are you thinking about it? Has it crossed your mind?
Of course it's crossed my mind. Lady Beatrice, thank you for the $5 donation. She says it's not okay. The network violated Kimmel's free speech and Colbert's too, because they're too scared to disagree with a certain person. They're using whatever excuse, and thank you again, Lady Beatrice. They're using whatever excuse they can, of course. Oh, Colbert's show wasn't, they're saying ratings. Bullshit.
No, it's not ratings.
No, it's not ratings. Colbert, they literally pulled the whole show off. Like, we don't even have the late night show. And that was just like, so they didn't have to face the backlash. Kimmel, I think they're still trying to decide if they're going to put him back on, because I think there are a lot of people, by the way, and let me know in the comments if you're doing this, are canceling Hulu Plus, their Disney vacations. I want to cancel Hulu. I haven't had the conversation with my family because I was like I was so upset this morning. Because you can. And this is another question, and I want to pose it. You guys let me know in the comments. And this is the only thing that I tell myself to make myself feel better is, although I know that local TV and over the top TV, right? Like rabbit ears TV, even though nobody uses rabbit ears, right? Matters. Local news matters. We always say local. Streaming is kind of the way to go. So we still have the ability, i.e. YouTube and other ways, to get our free speech out there. So it's not like we're being silenced. Like Jimmy Kimmel can take his show and put it on a platform and still speak. Does that make sense?
It does, but I have already seen YouTube change the algorithms to what they serve up to people. So a show like ours probably won't get as much leverage as some type of right-wing show. And then you start affecting how many dollars are coming in from these shows that will allow us to keep them on the air, right? And so if you squash the voices on the left by not, allowing them to be spread around, limiting what shows are pop up in people's feeds, all of these ways that they're doing it, then you have more of these shows folding and you don't have as many voices. So that's my fear. And please answer, do you think, and I know Jimmy Kimmel has legions of fans, I count myself among them, do you think that he would have as many viewers on ABC, on YouTube, if he came to the YouTube platform as he did on ABC?
I mean, I feel like that's where everything is moving, right? I mean, I think that's why these mergers are so important. I think that's why Nexstar and ABC and all of these things, they're not making the money to stand on their own. That's why these mergers are important. That's why they want to raise the cap, is because their reach isn't as broad anymore because everybody's on their phones.
True. So, and I watched Kimmel on my phone, but I will say that when you and I were on KGO radio in San Francisco, millions of people listened. There were millions of listeners. Depending on what time of day, there were millions of listeners. And everyone in the Bay Area knew about the station. There was sometimes a promotional budget, not toward the end, but earlier on. And and so there was a bigger listening audience. And then the station folds, we transitioned to YouTube, and it's been a struggle. There is no promotional budget here. A
Right.
lot of people don't know where to find us that maybe had enjoyed the show before. And so it's hard to play catch up. Now, maybe with a national name like Jimmy Kimmel,
Right.
someone who already has a following on YouTube and on the internet, maybe that's
Exactly.
not a problem.
Right.
But I still feel like that platform, that traditional platform, served him well and allowed him to be beamed into homes, that
Right.
maybe there's a right-wing farmer somewhere sitting in pick a state who doesn't get on the internet very often and has some sketchy, spotty internet, but always has the cable still.
Yeah,
I
I
just
think it's
it's
more
li-
picking and choosing the
yeah.
show and
Mhm.
replaying it on the internet. I hear what you're saying. I like having him on both. I think
Mhm.
that's the thing. I like the idea that we're not giving the TVs to Trump, right? Like it makes me scared that it's like when you walk into the gym, anybody experience this, and all the TVs are on Fox News, right?
Mhm.
That's what I don't want. I don't want to walk into my world and only see one type of news program and what's funny is the right and the conservatives are behaving in a way that is completely opposite of what not only they preached,
Right.
but Charlie Kirk himself preached. Like everyone's saying Charlie Kirk engaged with the other side and they silenced him. I didn't silence him. The Democratic Party did not silence him. Tyler Robinson silenced him.
Right.
And I think it is completely, for lack of a better word, unfair to group sane Democratic Party people in with a mentally ill person. You cannot blame people that have different political views than you and just lump them in with this murderer and say, yep, you're exactly the same. And we are no longer going to deal with you.
All leftists are killers that want, and one of them said, this is war. One of the
Right.
Trump cabinet members, this is war.
And the media is failing. The media has failed this moment because the next question is who? Democrats? The
Right.
entire Democratic Party? Is that who you are at war with? Who are you talking about when you say you are at war? Like these are the questions that need to be asked. Specific people. Marjorie Taylor Greene goes off and says he was not MAGA. He was Antifa. As if it is fact. And I know she was like up on the dais, but there's no challenge to this bullshit that they just spew as if it is fact.
Mhm.
And the media has failed this moment. Failed. And
The media is scared. The media is scared to death. Don
Lemon's doing a good job. I will say this. I've seen a number of videos. Don Lemon is getting like vilified by man on the street interviews, but there was one where he was taking it to task. I think it was actually with Nancy Mace. And he was like asking this question. She was calling people, the T words for transgender people. And like, she is a C word. I swear to God, Nancy Mace takes up space in this world. I am telling you, I don't know what is up with that woman, but
they're going to say, Nikki Maduro said Nancy Mace takes up space.
She
and
does.
All of a sudden, something bad happens to her, and you're the one that instigated it all.
She does. She does, though.
This is the moment where the media becomes afraid.
I'm not saying get rid of her.
No,
I'm not saying that. But she's mean.
Political violence, but she is a mean girl.
She's mean,
and she's nuts. She's crazy. So, I was looking last night for stories, and I decided to look on ABC and see what they had to say about Kimmel on their own network, abcnews.com. So I'm scrolling, and I'm scrolling.
Oh, it was the worst bare bones article, right?
I'm scrolling, and I get to
the same thing.
Very bottom of the page.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the way at the very bottom, and it's this tiny little article.
I did the same thing
He's on indefinite suspension, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah, and it's like a paragraph. That's
And
it.
like, yeah. And like, I think the last sentence is some people are up in arms about it. It was the most bare bones BS article I've ever read by ABC. The biggest effing cowards ever.
Scared. And on The View, also an ABC show, they mentioned nothing about Jimmy Kimmel today. Now, that had to anger the hosts, but they work for that station and they were probably told we don't mention that. And the minute they mention it, they're preempted too. As a matter of fact, the FCC chair, who, what is it, 1 day, 2 days after saying that Kimmel should be silenced, and Kimmel is silenced, now today pops out with, oh, and by the way, The View is another one that we need to look into. They aren't fair. They don't offer both sides of the story. So now we need to look into The View. So here comes The View. Do you think they're going to say anything about Kimmel when it's already, there's rumblings that they're coming after The View next? Not that, whatever. One show going to change our lives?
But them not talking about it
But
is suppression of
it's right.
speech.
And that's
them
what
not
it is.
talking about it.
They're clamping down on free speech. So it becomes less about the show. So for someone to say, oh, look, that Kim girl, she's so upset about The View and all the cackling ladies on The View. No, I'm upset about anyone in this country being silenced, whether they have a message of hate, which I think Charlie Kirk did, or whether they have a message of love, which I think Jimmy Kimmel actually brought out with his first response and his Instagram message to the Kirk family. Whatever the message is, we should be able to say it because this is the United States of America, and that's who we are. They're trying to strip and take away and change who we are. Now we got a problem.
I want to play this for you. This was online.
Oh,
This
by
is
the
Trump.
way,
Oh, go ahead.
less than 1 year into his presidency.
It's September. I know exactly. This is Trump. He's a hot mic caught him saying to journalists that they're not allowed to criticize him. Now you'll have to listen closely. I think there's captions. Hold on.
Look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump. That's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that.
He says they're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. You are allowed to criticize. That is why we have the First Amendment, is so you can criticize anything you want to. You can't yell fire in a movie theater and all that kind of crap. But yes, you can tell your president to F off. And you can say it right to his face too. Like, I just don't get it. I don't.
That's what we get to do. Imagine having such a fragile little ego that you can't take being fodder for late night hosts on TV. By the way, which every president, since we've had Johnny Carson on up to now, or whatever, maybe even before that, I don't know, not my era. But this is what late night hosts do. Yeah. You can't take a few jokes being cracked your way. Or maybe it was too realistic.
The thinnest skin. He has the thinnest skin. He always has, though.
I look at this. I mean, obviously, look at this as a travesty that anyone would think that this is acceptable in America. But also as how embarrassing for him that he has to send the FCC after people that are criticizing him. What a tiny little man with tiny little hands and a tiny, fragile little ego. And apparently they're coming for me. So tomorrow I won't be here. Well, that's all I needed to say. So, and now she's out. Where's the cane?
I also, Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman, it boggles my mind. And I know this is Pollyanna of me. Like, the responsibility of your job. Like, I can't imagine, this is what blows my mind. Like, he has to know this is not what you're supposed to do as the FCC chairman. You are not supposed to be the arm of the president. Yeah. You are supposed to just enforce FCC rules and regulations. You are not supposed to be like, well, the president doesn't like that, and so I'm not going to let it happen. But he literally says these effing things out loud. He does. He says it. Like, It's not the job of the FCC to police speech. It's not. Jimmy Kimmel did not break an FCC rule.
Doesn't
He
matter.
didn't.
Apparently, all you need to do is point the finger at brown people for all the problems of the country by the Supreme Court, and you can do anything. That's where we are.
What do you think's going to be? Okay, here's a good question, and let me know in the comments. Do you think that there is a show that will take it too far, even for the right, on television? Obviously, not on cable.
On mainstream television?
On mainstream television, where the right's going to be like, I think we're getting to the point where this might be a little bad. You know what I mean? There has to be a point where people are like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like wake the hell up.
I think that the shows that are the worst are the ones that actually lie to viewers. And that's Fox. We know that they've had to pay massive penalties for lying. This is not something that I'm making up. This is something that's in the court records, right? So to me, it's the lies. On the left, okay, I don't watch. If there are shows that are like so progressive, they advocate violence, I've never seen them in my life. To me, the left is reasonable, rational, and logical thought. It's let people do what they're going to do as long as they're not hurting anybody, it's fine. That's what, to me, the left is, right? You want to marry a same-sex partner? Go on ahead. You want to change your gender? Not my problem. Go do what you got to do, right? Let live and let live. But on the right, that's not. You have to conform to their certain set of specifications. And if you don't, then you're a horrible person and they're coming after you. That's, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know how to go off on that tangent. But to answer your question, I've never seen a show like that. I've never seen a show that's so far leftist that they would advocate violence or tell horrible lies. I just haven't seen it.
No, but I mean, I wonder if there's a show that the right loves enough where if they canceled it, the right would be like, that's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like, but I just don't.
I would say Rush Limbaugh back in the day, maybe. A lot of people listened to him.
But that was the radio. I mean, on television.
Maybe
you know what I mean?
Tucker Carlson before,
oh my God.
He got caught up in the lying and all that stuff.
Do you know that Tucker Carlson is even against this? Well,
of course, it's free speech.
He even came out. Yeah, he was like, it would be awful if we, exploited Charlie Kirk's death to, police hate speech. Because obviously Tucker Carlson lives for hate speech. But it's true. Like, I obviously hate speech. Like, nobody wants to do that, but you can't police it. It sucks.
Maybe Rogan.
But yeah, that's a podcast though. And that's not on television.
No, it's not.
And the FCC has no control over that. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean,
it's because they're all on cable. That's why. You know what I mean? Unless it went on a cable show and impacted some sort of Fox TV show, but I don't see that. I don't know if there's any sort of, that's why Trump says he smart people hate him. I don't know. There's the Tim Allen show. Maybe the new Tim Allen.
I have so many thoughts jumbled around in my head that they're coming out in just rapid fire. One of them is that, what do we do next? How do we fight this? Because I think that if you are on the right, sometimes you think it's all okay because it's that they're not on my side, right? It's okay to squish the left because they're not on my side. But if they were squishing my side, when they quote took Trump to court for trumped up DOJ weaponized charges, now they're getting a taste of their own medicine, the crazy lefties. When it happens to other people and not them, they're fine with it.
Yeah.
But that isn't the way America should work. And so if we ever make it out of this darkness that befalls us, and if we manage to survive a full Trump term, and I said this after January 6th too, and no one listened, we have to come up with ways to protect our Constitution and our country. Apparently, the Constitution itself is not good enough. We have to come up with ways and mean it that justices can't be bought, that there is no financial compensation ever. We have to come up with a way that we can ensure fairness and ensure that the laws of our country are followed. We must, because if we don't, then we just open ourselves to, well, that's the way it's always been done. And that's what the Constitution says. So that's the way it's going to be. Clearly, there's ways around that were not thought of. So we have to, I don't know, how do you think we save it? How do you think we save ourselves?
What's interesting is Ren brought up October 18th. And of course, the Prop 50 ballot measure. I'm wondering if they went too far with this. Okay, so right after Charlie Kirk's murder, I was very concerned that the anger over Charlie Kirk and this whole they versus them thing was going to overshadow the redistricting, and everyone was just going to, it was just going to get lost in the jumble. And I'm thinking now that this is kind of going to overshadow or just kind of reignite the fear of Trump having complete control again. So in a way, Kim, I do have some more hope. I mean, it's scary that it's happened, but sadly, I do think that Jimmy Kimmel being canceled can be used for our benefit as an example of why we need to get into this fight for redistricting, right? Because if we do not take control of our districts and give up in the midterms, that's it. Like, that's it. What he said before, we don't need any more elections. There won't be. Why would we have any more elections? They're just going to completely redraw the lines whenever they want to. So, yeah. And again, Tammy, while I do believe that Kirk's murder is a justifiable story, I am not going to say it's just some BS story to distract us from Epstein. I do believe it's a major story. Charlie Kirk is a major figure. Can I just add one thing though? I don't know if I mentioned this on Wednesday, but I just have to mention Honda again was the only car dealership on Capitol that did not fly their flag at half staff. So if I have to call it a car dealership,
give it to them.
I'm going to give it to Honda. It was just so nice to see. I'm just wondering if this could be something that Gavin Newsom, for instance, can use and be like, look, I know this whole us versus them. We are not Tyler Robinson or Robertson. And was it Robertson or Robinson? I'm forgetting.
I think it's Robinson,
whatever. We're not him. We are not him. And we are not going to let them tell us we are. We're not. He's an insane guy who murdered Charlie Kirk for whatever insane reasons he wanted to, right? Like, are we supposed to we are not going to let the GOP say that. We reject that.
Yeah.
We reject that narrative.
But what good does
100%.
it do? I was listening to them list off all the violent acts that lefties have committed.
Oh God.
And they conveniently, in their diatribes, leave off all of the people on the left who have been hurt by the crazies on the right.
Of course they do.
What it means is half of America thinks it's a lefty problem. They're not reasonable and rational enough to understand that it's a we problem, not an us or a them problem, right? And so I worry, and I was reading an article yesterday in Politico, I think it was in Politico, about how because of the Kirk murder and other efforts made by the GOP, so far they have out-registered voters for the midterm election. So there are more people registering as Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections so far. The Democrats are not doing a good job of getting out the vote. So while you and I would expect people to be smart enough to go, they're limiting free speech, they're blaming the left for a problem that clearly there are people on both sides of the aisle that are nuts and that are, moved to political violence.
Right.
That this is a mental health issue probably and a gun issue. This guy in Utah grew up with guns and apparently knew how to shoot, right?
Right.
But that's not the problem, apparently. The problem is he was a crazy leftist, whatever. But they're not going to hear that. And so then, they vote Republican in the midterm elections. thereby allowing our rights to be further eroded. And I wonder, I'm so disillusioned right now that I wonder if even if the United States voters do flip the House blue, does Trump pay attention to that?
Does
I mean,
he
he
care?
already, no, does he care? What, you going to go to the Supreme Court over it? And we know how that goes. So then what happens? We already know he didn't even bother to ask the Supreme Court about tariffs. There have been a number of things that he's supposed to go through Congress to get approved that he's like, whatever, executive order, I'm out. And so, you know, while I don't want to look away from the midterm elections, I also wonder how much Trump even pays attention to such things, and will he just do what he wants to do regardless of who's sitting in the House?
Well, we need to win it anyway. We need to.
True.
If we don't, it's 10 times worse.
Right.
John says, I wonder if liberals might become more introspective about calling people Nazis, Hitler, and fascists. Name calling, John, is protected again by the First Amendment. But you know, if you need examples of somebody calling fascists,
American politics today is between these far left fascists led by Harris and her group. We have a fascist person running who's incompetent. She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist. She's not actually a socialist. She's gone past that. Somebody's got to explain this woman. There's a radical left Marxist, communist, fascist.
So, you know, name calling is Trump's MO, but he's allowed to do it, John. Okay. So the name calling for the GOP and the right to be like, stop with the name calling. Trump was the leader of it. He ran on it for 2016. He brought down the maturity level of politics all the way down to zero, right? He led the way. So just stop trying to think that, that this hasn't been going on. And I will do the both sides, right? But I think that there are examples, comparisons that Democrats are making, I know, of why we're calling them that. I mean, but anyways, okay.
I have a video that I want to show you based on John's comment. And I know, listen, Nazis, you know, it was not, we're going to cancel your show. It was, we're going to go into your show and shoot you in the head to silence you. I get that there's a difference in violence, but I saw this on the Mark Thompson show fan discussion page, and I thought it was an interesting take on this whole calling people Nazis thing.
Doesn't it feel weird to just be like getting coffee, like with our crumbling democracy? Is this what people felt like in Nazi Germany? Don't say that. What do you mean? Listen, I get that you don't like Trump and that's fine, but acting like he's going to kill 6 million Jews is ridiculous. It completely dishonors the survivors and victims of the Holocaust. You know that saying about people who refuse to learn from history are doomed to repeat it? Yup. Yeah, so history is full of patterns, and it's our job to recognize them and call them out when we see them. You know when you hear a song and you're like, oh, that sounds just like that other song. They're not the same song, but they sound similar enough for you to be like, hey, yeah, Trump doesn't hate Jews. He literally has Jewish grandchildren, but you're looking for sameness again. Just because Trump uses the same tactics as the big H doesn't mean there's going to be an identical outcome. Like what tactics? Undermining democracy, consolidating power within the executive branch, attacking the media, seizing control of education, paying women to have babies, blaming immigrants for everything, especially the economy. Just those. Okay, do you know when Hitler became the leader of the Nazi Party? I couldn't tell you the exact day, but the 1930s. 1921, but so few people pay attention to the lead up to the Holocaust. We just focus on the outcome. Historians and Holocaust survivors have warned us for damn near 100 years at this point. Don't just remember how it ended, pay attention to how it began. They know all too well the dangers of not taking someone like this seriously. And I'd argue that we actually have a moral responsibility to call out these things when we see them. So many people choose to stay silent because they're afraid of offending someone or coming off as overly dramatic. But authoritarians love a silent civilian. Hey, they put a smiley face.
I love her. I've seen a lot of her videos, and it's true. They love... Yeah, that's a good one, John. History doesn't repeat it, but it rhymes.
So where does it begin? Where does it begin? I understand that, you call someone a Nazi and you're implying that they're murderous, right?
Right.
Which may not be the case here. But where does it begin? Does it begin with the trampling of rights?
Right. Or does it begin with, ICE just saying, I'm just following orders, right? I'm just following orders.
Does it begin with sending the National Guard into your own cities? Where does it begin? And if John is worried about John C, not John W, if John is worried about, the name calling on the left, well, it's for a good reason, because you have people wondering when you see are you okay with the lack of freedom of speech, John? Are you okay with the National Guard being sent into our cities? And if so, are you that silent civilian that she referenced?
Right.
Because we can't be silent. Otherwise, we're just all complicit in what's happening.
And I feel like it's, we're forgetting that there are so many other things going on at the exact same time. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we're losing our democracy, right? But just as like we're trying to take control of education still needs to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there are so many other things that are happening, so many other balls that are also in the air. I don't know about you, Kim. Like sometimes, like, especially like after this show, I take a deep breath. Do you ever do that? And you're like, and I try to like just like release a little bit.
Yep.
And I remember there are so many other things that we do have to focus on. I know that we haven't talked about Epstein, right? Like what is happening with that? What is happening with everything else?
Did you see the massive projection on Windsor Castle?
Oh, I did.
That was something.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
But I know what you're saying about needing that moment. Although I feel, and I look at the beauty of children, and I look at the things that won't change maybe in my life that bring me joy. I like a good waterfall and a good beach vacation, so I take a lot of virtual vacations online. But I feel like there's also good mental health and a good collective deep breath when we meet together. And I'm not saying that John C's, contrarian views are not welcome here. They are.
Oh, we love John C. Yes.
Bring me all the contrarian
yes.
views. I would love to talk about it. But what I am saying is that there is something about knowing there's a place where you can talk about things, where you can be together and know you're not the only one who's having these same thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that bothers me, like, okay, so I have friends that just are not, and I hate saying this because what makes me like, but are just not political. Like, and sometimes I think of them and it gives me like, I just try to be in their body for half a second and be like, what's it like to be them? And just be like, nah, nah, nah. The world is just, da, da, da. Oh, do you just go out and it's,
well, it'll be the same. The only time those people get upset is when the prices at the grocery store rise or the gas pump.
You notice what's going on right now, right?
As long as they can plod through life and everything is the same for them, it's all right.
But I like and James Tallarico, we've talked about him before. He's a Texas Democrat. I love this guy. He was talking about, we're paying attention to the wrong friggin' thing, of course.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been in this race for 5 days and I've had a lot of interviews with national media. No one's ever asked me about the cost of housing. No one's asked me about the cost of prescription drugs. No one's asked me about the cost of childcare. The only thing the media wants to ask me about are trans athletes. And so what I would say is that the only minority destroying this country is the billionaires. Trans people are 1% of the population. Undocumented people are 1% of the population. Muslims are 1% of the population. We are all focused on the wrong 1%. Trans people aren't taking away our health care. Undocumented people aren't defunding our schools. Muslims aren't cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends. It's the billionaires and their puppet politicians. And so we need not only the media, but all of us to focus on the real problem at hand.
And that's the thing.
He is delicious.
He's so good.
Awesome.
But as we are fighting the they and the others, they love it. The actual they. Trump loves this shit. You understand that they love it. They love this. They're making tons of money right in front of you. I love when Caroline Leavitt says he's the most transparent president in the world because he's telling you that he's fucking you and you don't care. Mm-hmm. That's it. And I hate to be so blunt because he tells you that he's making money off crypto. And because he's telling you that, he's the most transparent president the country's ever had. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to make money through the presidency. And I don't give a crap if his sons are running the company. It's a Trump coin. He's advertising it. Like, and there's no one to stop him because he put all of his people in all of the positions that would stop him. It's insane. And so again, going back to, it kind of sounds like Hitler because he controls everything. Mm-hmm. Who's going to stop him? Who's going to tell him no?
It will not be the American media because the American media is now scared. And so we go to the Australian media. And apparently, I don't know if you saw the video. I'm trying to pull it up, but I don't think I can as fast as I need it. Sorry, John C., that I'm not as much of a professional as you had indicated. But what he said, what this Australian journalist asked him as Trump was getting on to Marine One, and there was a line of press asking questions, is he asked whether Trump should be making so much money. He said, is it appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity? This is the Australian journalist. Is it appropriate for a president to be engaged in so much business activity? Yeah. And Trump slams him and says, who are you? You know, he's typical. You're no good. You're not a professional. You get out of my sight. You're the. And by the way, it's my kids who are running my business.
Right.
That's the answer.
That's the answer. That is not appropriate. Oh, and then I think Don Jr. or dumbass Eric, he was like, well, do you know how many lawsuits that we've had to pay off? Yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Like, you have to, you're president of the United States. You are not allowed to make money. And the fact that he announced this crypto coin and all that kind of crap, I just don't get it. Now, there are some things that I've listened to. Do you want a little bit of a palate cleanser? I've had a few palate cleansers. Are you ready for some palate cleansers?
Bring it to me. Bring it to me.
Now I know that I'm biased. I'm just going to say this right now. Totally biased.
It's okay. This is not a news show. This is a talk show.
It is a talk show. It's my commentary. I just want to let you know.
Right.
But I'm just going to say this before I play it. There was a time in history, in recent history, where when something bad happened, I knew that my president would comfort me. Like, I knew it. And I'm not saying he was perfect. He was not a perfect president. But I knew that he would not divide me. I knew that there wouldn't be an us and them. I knew it. He never did that. Okay? He just didn't.
And so when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin, enemies, who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem that we have right now. And something that we're going to have to grapple with, all of us, whether we're Democrats, Republicans, independents, we have to recognize that on both sides,
here we go.
Undoubtedly, there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views. And that is when we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem. And so your original question is, are we at an inflection point? We're at an inflection point in the sense that we always have to fight for our democracy. And we have to fight for those values that have made this country the envy of the world. And I often say democracy is not self-executing. It depends on us as citizens, regardless of our political affiliations, to stand up for certain core values, because otherwise we may not have them.
Now, I know it sounded like an us and them, but it wasn't. It was true. Yes, there are both sides. Just like I said with the murderer of Charlie Kirk. There are extremists on the left. There are. It would be absolutely wrong for us to sit here and say that there are not leftist extremists that are totally capable of doing what he did, right? But the fact of the matter remains is that you cannot say that the Democratic Party is him. I would never do what he did. I will disagree with Charlie Kirk till the cows come home. I would never take somebody's life over a differing political view. I would sit there. I would do what Charlie Kirk did. You know what I mean? I would. You want to sit and have a conversation? I do it all the time on this freaking show. Right? So that's the difference. And what I have a problem with is the Republican Party using this us versus them, and it's the lawmakers. The Democratic Party, the leaders of our Democratic Party did not do that. When Charlie Kirk was murdered, our leaders, our politicians came out with sympathy. Their Republican leaders came out with blame to our party and lumped us in. And that's wrong. Donald Trump was not a leader in this moment, and he's still not. And that's the problem. We need a leader to unite us, and he has zero desire to do it because a divided United States is a weak United States, and a weak United States can be controlled. And that's what's happening. I mean, look what's happening. We're being silenced. The View didn't talk about the number one story in the country. Didn't even mention it. And while that doesn't seem like a big deal, that is huge. Because that is a prime example of suppression of our First Amendment. Now, I understand it's a company and they're allowed to tell their employees what they want them to do. Like, I understand that. You know what I want? I want, Kim, all of like real anchors, and I know that it's hard, but they make a shit ton of money. They should have all walked out. They should have all walked out. They should have given them the middle freaking finger and said, F you, I'm done. You don't think that Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and all them don't make enough money? They don't make F you money yet?
So
What the
yes,
hell?
yes, and what is it about? You know, I've heard it said, so you have to sometimes, like, that shoots yourself in the foot, right? You shoot yourself in the foot in that instance, because then those people are not around to talk about anything anymore. They walk off and protest, and now their voices are gone. Well, now you've done the work of the squashing of the free speech for them. And so I don't know if that's the answer, to walk off and protest.
Right. I know what you're saying.
It's because then you perpetuate the issue. Then you silence more voices of clear-headed thought.
Okay, but then is it going to become this? Okay. And I know that you've seen this before, because remember when Fox bought the local radio stations? Remember when that happened and we were like, oh my God. And then somebody on Twitter put this crap together.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 And they just say this is extremely dangerous to our democracy over and over and over again.
Wild. I will say that in 22 years at KGO, there was never one day
where we had to do that.
One day where we ever had to do that, where someone sent a memo other than an advertisement and said, say this.
Right.
Never one day.
We heard it on CBS when they had to play that BS Homeland Security message from, Barbie, that stupid shit. That's what's going to happen.
That's scary as hell.
And that's on TV. And those are anchors that are handed a script and told, say this.
Yep.
Say this. This is what you have to say.
Don't worry about it. Just read what's on the teleprompter.
Just
you
read
don't
what's
have
on.
to,
Talking
you don't have
heads.
to think. You just have to read.
Talking heads. Exactly. Didn't it sound like Max Headroom? Yeah. And Liz, that's what, I don't know why, but part of me had this whole insane moment where everyone just you're just turn off the boob tube and get off your phones. And that's the only way. And it's there's a scene where everyone just breaks their phones, breaks their TV, and just steps outside and just talks to their neighbor, right? And gets to know each other. And that's the only way they lose control, is we actually interact with each other on a human level. Sadly, I don't see that happening. I don't know how scared I'm worried. I'm really worried.
It's really scary. Whole thing's really scary. I found the video that I wanted to show you. Can I show it to you?
Yeah.
I know I already kind of paraphrased it, but here's what he had to say.
Oh, to the Australian reporter.
Yeah.
He's such an ass.
Appropriate President Trump that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners Program.
Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. But they want to get along with me. Your leader is coming over to see me very soon.
Now I'm going to take it out on him.
You set a very bad tone.
Well,
go ahead, John.
Okay,
you can set a nicer tone.
UAE does a deal. What do you want in return?
Quiet.
You're mean to me, so I'm going to take it out on your leader. What are you talking about?
You're from Australia. You asked me whether or not I should be running so many businesses or involved in business during a presidency. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, to be quiet, and second of all, that when your leader of your country comes over and they want to do business with me, I'm going to take it out on your whole country because you asked me a question that apparently he's too weak-minded to answer.
Like, what are you talking about?
What kind of a president, what kind of a leader can't field a question? Can't just say, I completely understand your concern, and I know that there is laws against that, which is why I've turned the companies over to my children.
Yeah. And period. Just end it there.
Ask a follow-up question or end it there. Why does it need to go on? He is not a good leader. He is a weak little tiny child. Yeah, he's a tiny child.
And he's like, you're not doing your country any favors. He's a reporter. He doesn't have to do his country favors. He's just doing his job, idiot. Like, I don't get how people that are Trump supporters watch I just don't. They must not. And that's the thing. And I've said this before, and I will say it again. We don't watch the same media. And that's the problem with media. Because I've seen over the last week the response over Charlie Kirk's murder. And I mean, I've seen children crying and people just in real emotion. And I'm not saying like that there's not, the guy was brutally, and he's a father and a husband. And obviously that's an emotional thing. But obviously the ignoring, let's just say, of what we, and I'm just going to use the us and them, and I hate doing that, but of what we understand of Charlie Kirk's, let's just say, on-air persona, because there's a lot of people like, I knew Charlie Kirk as a friend, and that's a different relationship, right? His on-air persona versus what we saw versus what other people saw, they just didn't seem to jive.
No. They think he's the nicest person and the kindest, and he'll, was always entertaining other points of view. But what they didn't see, what some people didn't see, is all the incendiary, horrible, vile things that he did say. And when shown clips of, the talking about racism, misogyny, all these things, they're surprised. Oh, that's not the Charlie Kirk I knew.
Well, all I ever heard that was positive, this is what I constantly heard from people that are Charlie Kirk's fans. He believed in Jesus Christ, the traditional family, Christian values. That's what I heard. Fine. Oh, and that's fine. Yeah. But did you watch his show? Like, and I understand, like, and then everyone's like, well, he had controversial values or controversial views, and he challenged certain things. But did you listen to how he challenged them? Like, I understand if you believe in traditional marriage, let's say, and I'm not going to have this debate right now, but if you believe in traditional marriage, you can debate that without being offensive.
Right.
He was offensively defending his position. Mm-hmm. And I understand why he did it. Money, clicks. Like, you're not going to take a nice road to defend it because that doesn't bring the views. And I understand that. But like, let's not ignore how he defended it. And so I'm not trying to, blaspheme the guy after he's died, but there was a huge disconnect between how people saw him. And that was the problem. And that's what I feel like people took such offense by, is fans were like, how could you? And other people were like, well, how could you ignore it? Like, and that's why I think there was such conflict over the response by each side that we're in the situation today, honestly, because, and when we're going to have it again, and I'm just going to say this, mark my words, and I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon, so don't come at me. But because everyone passes away, when our current president, and he may not be our president anymore, but when our current president passes away, the response by Republicans versus Democrats, we're going to see this nonsense all over again. Mark my words.
I always was raised not to speak ill of the dead.
Of course.
And not to wish harm on anyone.
Of course.
And I stand by those things. But I also feel like if you're going to try to affect the national memory of someone who has passed away, then let their legacy and let their words stand for themselves.
Everybody, welcome back. Email us your thoughts as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Brian from Indiana says, Charlie, I agree with you on most of the grooming thing, but do you have more examples of people talking about trying to influence children's sexuality? Thanks so much. So yeah, we've been talking about this grooming issue, and I just want to make this very clear for people that I wish this wasn't true. I wish that there was not this theme of lawmakers and teachers trying to corrupt children sexually. For example, New Jersey to require second graders to learn about gender identity in fall. New Jersey's new sexual education curriculum draws criticism from some parents, and it's basically saying that the most graphic sexual education, gender identity, transgender ideology will now be taught to second graders.
That's such bullshit.
It's just not true.
Now, there is this video. We posted this video in San Francisco where they're not. This is the thing that people have to realize about the alphabet mafia, is that it's not just about two dudes being able to get married. First, it was like, no, we want to be able just to have social acceptance of like two women or two men together. That was like their first thing, like will and grace, like, okay, fine, whatever. Then it was, we need marriage because it's all about equality.
Right.
And love is love. Love is what we need. And then they won the, I can never pronounce Oberfell, right? Decision in 2011, 2012. And so then marriage equality was the law of the land, overturning other states that believed marriage was one man and one woman, a national takeover of our laws, an unprecedented federal takeover. No one wanted to oppose them. Like, okay, this will get rid of the gay issue. That's what we thought, right? Oberfell was 2015. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. And so there was this desire by, let's say, peace-loving conservatives. And it was very tempting to fall into line here. And in some ways, I was young and naive, and I fell into line with this too. There was this desire that the issue of gay marriage and LGBT, whatever, was going to go away. That it was, okay, marriage, now we can no longer talk about it. In fact, that was the argument that a lot of conservatives would give. That is the argument that a lot of conservatives would say in 2014, 15, 16. Let marriage happen. We'll never have to talk about it again. Instead, it's the opposite. The opposite is that gay marriage happens. We're talking about gay stuff more than any other time. Why? Because they are not happy just having marriage.
Well, they're people. Like,
instead, they now want to corrupt your children. Don't believe me? Just listen to the song. They say that.
Okay. That's his legacy. That's what you should remember.
Because he doesn't get it. Like,
gay people want to corrupt your children.
They just want acceptance. They want to be part of their people. So just be part of the community. That's it.
If you want to remember someone, and I would say that one person is not all things, right?
Right.
He likely wasn't completely bad, nor was he completely good.
Of course.
He is a human being with ideas that I completely disagree with. But don't start saying, oh, he was just such a loving person and all he cared about was his kids and what. And he probably totally cared and loved and adored his kids and wife. And at the same time, he put out a lot of misogynist, racist, anti-gay.
And that's why people were upset.
So that's who he was. That's what he leaves behind. Don't let anybody, say it's not okay to remember that. It's all on the internet for all of us to see. What are they going to try to now scrub it all off of YouTube so that they raise him into this person who he really wasn't?
Yeah. And again, he was a free speech advocate, which again, people are acting opposite of what he believed in. And now a guy who believed in traditional roles, who believed in a woman staying home with kids, his wife is now going to be Turning Point CEO. Yeah. So not going to be home with the kids. Apparently.
They have millions of dollars. They're not poor. These are not
But
poor
she's
people.
not supposed to be working, Kim. She is supposed to stay home with the children. Not supposed to be. Why didn't they put a man in that role, Kim? Is there not a capable man that can do the job? Why is a woman outside of the house? How dare they?
Would the common thinking of folks in the conservative, like Christian, whatever, be like, oh, she needs to find herself another husband and fast. She's not going to look that good. She's not going to look that good forever. Like, is that what they say? By the way, I completely disagree with that.
I mean, come on, I'm being sarcastic here.
Totally. If she wants to rise and carry on her husband's legacy,
she can do whatever the hell she wants to. Yeah,
go be you.
I am totally being sarcastic. But again, it's just so surprising that, did you listen to her talk the day after he was killed? She's given a press conference, which I don't know if I would be able to do that. I am not okay. I am not going to I don't know what their marriage was like. All I'm saying is that I love my husband. He is my soulmate. If my husband was brutally murdered, I would not be able to string 2 words together in 24 hours.
Nope.
This woman was able to get dressed, put on makeup, and speak extremely clearly within 24 hours. Take that for what you want. Okay? Take that for what you want. Maybe she had, because she's married to who she's married to, maybe she has a great public speaking skill, but I don't know.
Or maybe their message and his message was so important to her that it kind of, trumped everything else.
Maybe she just felt that like she had to get out there. You know what I mean? Or I don't know.
I was reading something about Jackie Kennedy last night.
Right.
That after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, that she had the wherewithal to ask about the Secret Service men that were around him at the time and what, wanted to ensure they'd be okay. And then didn't want to change her outfit because she wanted America to be able to, she wanted to change history. She wanted people to see what happened, the blood on her clothes and what have you, but stood right next to the next president being sworn in and was able to do. There are people
there's pictures of that. Yeah.
Will crumble, and there are people that will rise to whatever moment they feel they need to rise to. And I don't want to criticize the way in which she grieves or whatever she feels is important to her. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to string 2 words together either. I would be inconsolable.
And again, she has support. They have tons of money, like Kim mentioned. But it is surprising that everything that Charlie Kirk stands for, what we're witnessing, seems to completely be going against that. Violation of First Amendment rights, policing hate speech, policing any kind of speech. And now his wife is working outside the home, which again, I fully 100,000% support. But again, he did not support that. Just making it abundantly clear, he did not support that at all. She's like Judge Thomas's wife. I have no idea who Judge. I don't know what that is.
Oh, Ginny Thomas, Judge Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny.
Oh, Ginny Thomas. Oh,
yeah.
I see. Yeah. But yeah, it's just insane. But again, where do we go from here? Like, what do you guys do tomorrow? Again, I think the number one focus is the redistricting. I think that what we have to focus on is redistricting. I do think we have to do with our wallets. I'm going to cancel Hulu. I know my husband's going to be pissed, but I really think we have to. I know I'm going to be honest. If I'm honest about what I really watch, I would say Netflix. I do watch shows on Hulu. I'm not going to lie. Hulu, we watch a lot. But I think that if I subscribe to the NFL package, which is not connected to Nexstar, because it's football season, I think that's what he's going to be pissed off about the most. I think that if I can get the NFL package and talk him into that, I think we're good. I think we're good.
I saw Rhonda had a comment and I lost it. I didn't put a star by it, and so now it's lost in the chat history. But Rhonda said she woke up in the middle of the night and she just canceled all the stuff that was attached to all the companies. Just woke up, just canceled it all.
Yeah.
If I cancel Disney Plus, I feel like, I'm going to, but my kids will probably, put up a fuss, even though I'm voting with my wallet. But Disney Plus is big in our household because I have kids, and there's not a lot of other kids programming or kids movies where you can just go to and have it be safe. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem with Disney Plus. But you could make the same argument of Amazon Prime. Well, it's Jeff Bezos, and he gave money to Trump. You know,
Right.
it's just, where does it end?
It's like, where does it end?
Is
Yeah.
the only one that's acceptable Netflix? I mean, they're based in Los Gatos. Who have they given money to? What have they done? I don't know.
That is true. I mean, but I feel like the media needs to feel it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Or, you know what? If you don't want to, Kim, and I'm not going to judge you if you don't, right? But you have to call them. You have to call them and call them and call them. If you're not going to cancel, call them and then call them again and then call them. Their phones need to continually ring. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to cancel because, let's say, you have kids or whatever, you need to bother the shit out of them. And you need to tell them that it's wrong. There needs to be an uncomfortable feeling. They need to feel it. They need to know that people are unhappy. I do believe that cancellation is what they're going to feel the most, obviously, because it's not like the CEO's answering his own phone. The poor receptionist is going to. But yeah, Tammy says, I'm not sure boycotting changes the rhetoric and BS coming out of the White House. You know, and the truth of the matter is, it's the merger. It's all about the merger. It doesn't actually matter. And I hate saying that. But, and I again, and then I was like, why am I canceling then? Right.
Because it feels like you need to do something and take a stand, because you're giving money to those people who just helped slam down free speech in the United States.
So then if they put Jimmy Kimmel back on, do we reinstate it?
I was reading that it's very slim pickings. They want him to apologize.
They want him to apologize and make a donation to Turning Point. I
mean, absolutely not.
Could you imagine?
No. First of all, he has nothing to apologize for. He said
he didn't do anything.
Nothing. I mean, no. I've said worse than he has. I mean, I'm not on a major network, but still. Free speech, man. You don't apologize for free speech unless you said something you feel bad about.
He did, and he didn't lie. No. They were trying to do everything in their power to say he wasn't MAGA. That's not lying. They were saying it was Democrats. They were saying it was lefties. That's what they were doing, which is also wrong. Like, I don't know, man.
He also said that Trump was trying to use the Kirk murder as political capital or as a political weapon. And we know that that is not a lie. As a matter of fact, and this is a crazy story, Nikki. I was just reading a story that the military is trying to also capitalize on the Kirk murder by using it as a recruiting tool. I'm not even joking. They want to use the killing of Charlie Kirk as a way to rile people up and get them passionate and fired up enough
to join the military,
to join the United States military.
So I work at a school, and it's obviously like colleges and military, right? Recruiters come. And so we have this whole like training of like how you have to bring the recruiters on, and because sometimes they could become aggressive. They didn't make an appointment, you know, they just want to come on, right? And so it's like you have to make an appointment so that you could be there. And I've mentioned this before. I've mentioned this on KGO when I was on KGO, and I've mentioned it on this show. I would never. I married into a military family. I don't want my children to go into the military because I don't want my children to have to bend allegiance to a government's whim. But I would never stop my children from doing whatever they wanted to do. You're 18 years old if that's what you're called to do. But I would never want them to serve this government ever. If my children were 18, which they are not, and they were like, I'm thinking about joining the military, I would say, absolutely not. Absolutely. You are not serving this administration at all. Not at all. That is just not happening. Sorry. What is
try
this?
and recruit new troops after the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Two officials familiar with the planning tell NBC News there are plans for a campaign to encourage young people to join the U.S. military to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy. NBC News senior national security
Was
correspondent,
Kirk in the military?
Courtney Kuby, has been digging
I don't
into this
believe
for
so.
us. Courtney, what have you learned?
Yeah, so this is an effort that's being led by the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. That's retired General Anthony Tata. The goal here is to look at whether they can use Charlie Kirk's legacy as essentially a national call to service. And that would include potentially things like mottos like, we need to grow a generation of warriors in honor of Charlie. It could also include, though, Kate, using some of these Turning Point USA, that's, of course, the organization that was founded and run by Charlie Kirk until his death last week. Some of those locations could actually be used to encourage recruiting as well. That could be everything from having recruiting officers come to the locations and talk to students or talk to people at universities, to even having brochures about military service present in their locations.
And Courtney, do you know if the military has done anything like this before, recruiting people following the death of a public political figure?
Not that we are aware of. It's not uncommon for them to be at places like universities, obviously, and for them to have people who would be, coming to events that are sponsored by various groups. I should also say at this point, this has not been decided. This is an idea, as I said, that is being headed up by Anthony Tata, the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. But at this point, it's not been completely, signed off on by the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, although he is aware of it. This is part of a bigger push by the Pentagon to look at recruiting and to look at some of the societal trends that exist right now that could spell a problem for recruiting in the future. Of course, the Trump administration loves to talk about how recruiting for the military has skyrocketed under Donald Trump. But the reality is they are looking at the possibility that that could start falling in the coming years, Kate.
Well, I thought that he was the anti-war president. Why do we need more recruits?
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were never going to war, Trump.
Yeah.
Why do we need recruits?
National Peace Prize coming his way. Come on.
No one's going to go to war. Why would the world go to war? You're president. Isn't that what you said? No one would dare go to war with Donald Trump as president. Isn't that what he said?
Here's what we have. Yeah, and he could end the war with a phone call. So here's what we saw how well that worked out. So here's what we have. We know that high schoolers know who Charlie Kirk is. My daughter was more aware of him than I was. If I don't agree with someone, I tend to I'll hear them and then I kind of tune out that noise, right? I don't seek out that voice anymore because I know that then maybe
like, why am I talking about it?
Right. I wouldn't. But kids know who he is. High school kids are turning into college kids, are turning into people who may or may not sign up for the military, right? They recruit the youth. And so some type of Charlie Kirk recruitment campaign could fill up the ranks of the military, and then you would have a military really that's right wing.
Absolutely.
And what does that do? Where does that get us when you have a majority of people in the military, and maybe some would say we're already there, but I would say there are people in the military of all political persuasions. But if you're targeting and recruiting the Kirk folks and the Turning Point folks and the Trumpers and everything, then you have a fighting force that is completely one-sided and is not here for America. They're here for a political ideology.
And Teacher Lori makes
problem bad.
Teacher Lori makes a great point. You take out the gays, the trans, the women, right? Then you take out the diversity, right? You take out the understanding. You take out, all those different perspectives.
Who's left to say this is wrong?
Right? Although I would say that just because you're not gay, trans, or a woman doesn't mean that you're just a right wing, hateful person or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all, but it's just, they definitely are going to look for a certain type of person. And we know that Trump loves the loyalty test. I would imagine that they would have something like that on recruitment tests, right? Like, do you agree with the president? Do you agree with X, Y, and Z? And if you don't, well, maybe you're not gonna make it to a higher office or whatever. It's a dictatorship. It's it's insane. And I don't know. I don't understand why people want that. Again,
I don't
I
understand why people want any of this. Like, why are we crying into a void here? Is there anything that can be done? Or is it cooked? Is the party over?
again, and I always say this when we start ending the show,
Yeah.
is that I find comfort in the belief that there's, and I know that this is naive since we've just been yelling about, the us versus them.
Yeah.
I'm going to play it. Okay. So I'm just going to play this video because I did find a little comfort in what he was saying. I think this is the video. So let me see it because I know his face. No, this was not the guy. Because I think that there is some truth to the fact. Oh, did I not put it in here? I didn't. Okay. Well, anyways, I was listening to this video this morning and I thought I put it in here. And it was this guy that was basically saying, do you think that this is the first time that we've lived in these types of times? Right? Like,
Yeah.
There's been the fall. I've mentioned this before, the fall of Rome, right?
Mhm.
There have been in generation after generation after generation, from the Greeks to wherever, where people have thought this was the worst of times, where their leader was the worst person in the world, that everything was falling apart, right? And what did it require, right? It required action from the people. Okay. So that's what this requires. It requires the action of the people. It's a common saying. I've seen it online a lot. Like, I'm tired of living in, unprecedented times, right?
Mhm.
Like, I want boring times. I want politics to become boring again.
Right.
But again, we always have lived in historic times because we live in history, right? And so that's where I find my comfort is, yes, it seems insane right now. Yes, it seems like the world is ending and our country is falling apart. But this is not the only time in history in which people have felt that way.
It's the truth. It is
And
the truth.
so,
We saw it even with the Civil War, slavery, all of this.
I mean, to
And
think that
still
this
we
is
have
the
a
worst
country.
of times is
Yeah.
insane for us to think
Mhm.
and believe. And while that's not the most comforting, I do find comfort in that, right?
But
And we've lived through it, and
Mhm.
hopefully we have gotten better.
But we have to fight for it, just like
Right.
at other times they had to fight for it. I was
Exactly.
reading this article by an Oxford University historian that was published in the Huffington Post yesterday or the day before. His name is Timothy Gaughton Ash, which is
Mhm.
quite a British name. And he is predicting in a new essay that he wrote for The Guardian that Americans have only 400 days to save our democracy. If we're going to save it,
TikTok,
it's going to be in the next
TikTok.
400.
Right.
Exactly. Time's account ticking. He
And
said
400 days is like,
he said
we're done.
hysterical, hyperbole. I would love to think so. But during
Okay.
7 weeks in the US this summer, I was
Okay.
shaken every day by the speed and executive brutality of President Trump's assault on what had seemed settled norms of US democracy and by the desperate weakness of resistance to that assault. He said all Democrats, irrespective of party or ideology, must hope the Democrats regain control of the House in the 2026 midterms, not because of the Democrats' policies, which are a muddle, or their current leadership, which is a mess, but because currently the GOP-controlled Congress has to start doing its job again and to keep the White House in check.
Mm.
And he said Democrats have to relentlessly bring these economic costs irresistibly home to voters, not by just talking about the defense of democracy, important though that is, but by engaging in culture wars. He says we have 400 days to figure our S out and save our country. So we have to rise to the challenge. We have to do something.
Right. We
because
have to.
because as he said, what are the words he used? We have a desperate weakness of resistance to this assault. We're just taking it
Exactly.
laying down.
No.
Oh, today he squashed free speech. Gee, what does that mean for me? Guess I'll
Right.
just keep on going on. Just
No.
like your non-political friends that just keep living their lives. and not paying attention to the world around them.
No. Democracy is an action. It's not something that we could take for granted. It's something we have to act on. And the first thing that we have to act on is, one, if you want to boycott ABC, Nexstar, do that. If you don't, if you want to keep your television, okay, fine. But then call ABC, call Nexstar, do something like that. I mean, make your voice heard, whether it's online, whether it's just blasting them, do something. And then it's the redistricting. I mean, you have to get out and vote on that. It is so important. And I know that some people just don't get it. And I'm talking to you, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, if you would just understand the bill, you know what I mean? I feel like if people truly understood what the bill stood for, what the proposition stood for, right? And understand that we're not giving up the independent commission, that we're not giving up, that we actually like it, that we actually want it, but it is in a response to what the Republicans are doing, that we wouldn't do this if they weren't doing that, that we would not even have it if they would just stop doing what they're doing. Okay? So they are not allowed to call us cheaters, right? They are not allowed to change the narrative of what we're doing when they're doing the exact same thing. If people would just truly understand that you have to talk to your friends in California, you have to make them understand that, right? They cannot put blinders on to what Republicans are doing and call out Democrats for what we're doing. It is only a response. And we would completely cancel our action if they would as well. But anyways, that's my plea. But we have to get out and vote on that. And it has to be a yes. It has to pass. It has to pass. That's the first thing. And then we have to get out there for the midterms. We just have to. Democrats need to wake the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, we just need to. And I'm really, really hoping that the Jimmy Kimmel thing did it. We have some thank yous. Harry, Brendan Carr canceling Kimmel is a bold move. The FCC hasn't had that much influence over late night TV since your grandpa adjusted the rabbit ears. Harry, you are absolutely right. Thank you so much for the donation. Cindy for the $10 donation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love your shows and chats. Project 2025, next goal, constitutional convention, ending the Bill of Rights, and only have rights for the core. No labor, tenant, voter rights, even go back to government appointed senators. Let's not think that, Cindy, but thank you so much for the donation. And Lady Beatrice starting us off with that $5 donation. It's not okay. The network violated Kimmel's free speech and Colbert's too. And you're absolutely right. He did nothing wrong. And they're not, again, the right and the GOP are not allowed to lie about what Kimmel said. He did not say that. He did not say that he was MAGA. He just said that they were trying to do everything in their power to say that he was not MAGA. And they did. They did. All right. You guys, thank you so much for being here. If you could give a thumbs up, share the show with your friends. Oh, Jim, thank you so much for the $5 donation. We are 100% crowdfunded. We love doing this show for as long as we can before they find out that we're here.
And it's slowing down. So support us. Let's keep it going.
Please.
Yeah.
We love it. We love PayPal. PayPal doesn't take as big of a chunk as Patreon. So if you want to switch on over to PayPal and do a monthly donation, we really do appreciate it. I know some of you have been messaging us and doing that way. We love it. We love it. We love it. So thank you guys so very much. You can find all the ways to donate and support the show in the show notes. And the number one thing that you could do that doesn't cost a dime is, of course, share the show with your friends and do the thumbs up. All right. We will be back here next week, 5:00 Pacific, drinking heavily because I'm sure there's some other shit that's happening. Yeah. We love you. Thank you so much for being here, and take care of each other. Mwah. Love you. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.